All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Jay Williams, financial strategist with McKinley Carter Wealth Services in our Charleston, West Virginia office. I'm joined today by David McKinley, President and CEO of McKinley Carter, and David Nolan, our Chief Investment Officer. Thank you, gentlemen. And this is Between Two Daves.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate your time. So this is a few things we've had coming in today. Today has been an interesting day as we are a few days into Trump's second presidency, and we're talking about potentially relevant market activity and things that might be on the tops of minds of investors. And one thing that is a hot topic of discussion is Chinese technology. Its release and potential definite short-term effects on the market and potential long-term effects. And so one of the things that's been released over the weekend was DeepSeek, which is the Chinese answer to OpenAI and other AI agents. What are your thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, it's a great question. It's certainly roiled the markets today, and this I think will be an ongoing issue for the foreseeable future. Because in essence, what it's done is it asked the question: with this new product that the Chinese have developed, has it somewhat commoditized artificial intelligence? So this is going to affect everything from the number of chips, the power of the chips that you need. The software that you need, the electricity that you need. We're seeing, today we're seeing a lot of downward movement in the chips names of the power providers, whether it's nuclear power or otherwise. And so it's going to be an ongoing issue for folks to determine how much of this is being commoditized. And if it's being commoditized, it means the value prospects here for a lot of our U.S. Tech companies are diminished, and so it's up in the air right now.
All valid points. Another point I might make, particularly for those that are less closely following artificial intelligence and the potential impact, it's here to stay, and as it is adopted by more and more companies and professionals and individuals, just generally in society, I think could meaningfully impact the efficiency and potentially effectiveness of businesses, institutions, organizations of all sorts. I think the Chinese investment just kind of validates that. I think in all of our lives we're going to see more and more applications. It could very well become commoditized, but it's what do we do with it, that's what really appeals to me, and it'll be fun to watch. I think on the other side, this is. Most people, I think, will recall just a few years ago when the Chinese technology manufacturer Huawei was a focus of attention and concerns around the transfer of data across Chinese technology and networks. And I think we could probably ask ourselves the same here around DeepSeek. If this is going to be a database to be used for the production of artificial intelligence, are we comfortable submitting confidential, secure information to this network, and are we comfortable relying on it as well? It's also no secret that in recent years, the Chinese and American governments or economies are in competition. The China economy is becoming a force, a global force, and it'll be interesting to see how the new administration manages trade relationships, diplomatic relationships of all sorts between the United States and China. We could be at the brink of yet another, I'm going to use the word war loosely, because I don't believe it's bullets and missiles, but I do believe cyber issues will be where the warfare is, whatever you want to say, deployed.
Yeah, I was just saying that I agree, and it's the not only the commoditization, to David's point, that he was talking about the benefit will come from the end user. So this may, when you commoditize something and you bring the prices down, then more folks are going to use it, right? So it's going to be, the applications will expand, because if it's less costly to use AI and produce AI, then more folks will use it. So certainly AI is going to be revolutionary going forward. And the only thing too about the Chinese, I mean, in some cases they're the term frenemy, right? Friends and enemies, right?
Mhm.
And so we do see some of that with the Chinese, two most powerful nations in the world competing with each other, and that's expected. But the other thing that some were saying that if a small group of Chinese scientists can create this type of product, then that means that you may have folks in other parts of the world. You may have folks in Europe and other parts of Asia that are able to produce similar results over time. So it'll be interesting to see what the landscape looks like. But China, there's always the concern about when you open that door and you have Chinese applications, Chinese software, then you're not sure who's watching it.
Mm. And from an investment philosophy standpoint, we've had a pretty clear internal stance on China for a while. If one of you want to speak to that,
we have, and actually, I'm gonna address from an investment standpoint two things we're speaking about: China and technology. Over the last couple of years, the Magnificent Seven have been in all the headlines, and we own most of them, nearly all seven actually, but in relatively modest allocations. In fact, I think it was in one of our recent talks, we talked about the risks of this concentration in highly valued industry-specific names. They definitely have added value to the portfolio, but do we believe they will continue? And I think we're seeing that today. When you apply a little competition and the threat of an earnings miss, is it bringing some of these stocks down? The second, as it relates to China, because of some of the challenges that we've observed there, like there's just some peculiarities. The staunch, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess we'll just say communist patterns emerging. There's a real control of under the current leadership there. We're just a little concerned about the data that we were getting and how strong is the economy and the companies that are operating there, and was it worth the risks? And so we ultimately chose to reduce our exposure, actually rethinking some of those strategies right now. I don't know, David, if you want to comment on some of the things we're doing to bring ourselves a little closer to alignment. How do we deal with this aversion to China companies with the need to have investment returns for our clients? Like, where do we strike the right balance?
Yeah, we've certainly been underweight China for the last couple of years. There was a trust issue and the last Huddle article that put out talked about who's in our circle of trust. Well, the Chinese have never been in our circle of trust, and so we've had an underweight just because we don't really trust the data that's coming out of there. And there's obviously evidence that their economies are slowing, their population really affected by the property price drop. And so that's impacted their economy. So to David's point, we are thinking about a reconstitution a bit of our international portfolio, that we might increase our Chinese allocation because it has been so depressed for so long, and we have a significant underweight to China. And so we'd still maintain an underweight, but it would be potentially a lesser underweight because of the underperformance for so long, and the fact that their economy still is growing at 4 or 5%. So it's not like it's a recession. It's still growing, still opportunities there. So we're still cautious on China, but thinking about becoming a little bit more optimistic in terms of our a lesser degree of an underweighting.
As we think about other topics that are at the forefront of investors' minds, we think about the Trump presidency and what that means for the business environment in the U.S. Go ahead, David.
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
I think I and many people around the world are kind of sorting out what was campaign rhetoric and what is actually being implemented, what is going to stick and through executive orders, what's going to be able to get passed through the legislative process. Some of the things, if we're real frank, some of the things that are causing me to just scratch my head is the massive increase in prices among cryptocurrencies. And if I understand correctly, there was an executive order kind of elevating the role of cryptocurrencies in our lives. I can't get there as an investor, as a person in the world. I don't own a dollar of cryptocurrency and can't imagine recommending it to a client. Not sure what to make of that policy, and I need a little more time to sort out some of the other things that have been advanced in the last week.
Yeah, clearly, David, I agree that the problem that we have is that when we do fundamental analysis of things, we like to have earnings. We like to use interest rates and put it all into the soup and come up with our investment strategy. And there's really nothing to base the valuation of crypto on. So, what are you basing Bitcoin on? Bitcoin is worth more than it was yesterday. It's worth less than it was yesterday. There's no really way to value it. It's certainly becoming more popular. And David talked about the Trump administration is certainly more favorable to crypto, easing regulations, talking about potential stockpile of crypto going forward. And but it's just tricky for us in our portfolios to put an allocation, which we do not have an allocation in crypto because we have no way to value it. And I'm not going to say that it's a greater fool type of investment, but up to this point, there's similar characteristics to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and outside of cryptos, we think about successful entrepreneurs and their proximity to this administration. What does that mean as we think about Vivek and Musk being part of Doge, this newly created entity that is out to combat government waste, and we've certainly seen the deficit rise substantially over the last 10 years. And as we look at the as a ratio to GDP, how does the U.S. combat the growing deficit while also trying not to overtax its citizens to make up for it? Do we, to David, to your point that you made earlier, around at some point we have to do one or the other or both, which is decrease spending, increase revenue, or both. And which one of those do you see being most likely and most impactful as we think about something that does impact our work with clients, which is tax considerations?
Let's just first say 100% agree with what you said. We're not on a sustainable course. You cannot just allow this debt to compound, and higher interest rates are making it even worse. It's compounding faster than it was in prior years. We have to take care of our citizens, and to the extent that we are supporting providing foreign aid to care for others in the world, okay. But can we do it more efficiently? And is there an opportunity to modernize government? Can we learn something from the business community? Can Elon Musk or such successful entrepreneurs that bring a creative, innovative approach to things, can he add value to this? I certainly hope so, and I'm willing to hear what he has to say. Of course, there are just going to be proposals that need to be voted upon, so we're going to have a chance to really vet those. I'm intrigued by the possibilities. I'll just leave it there because I haven't really heard any material proposals yet.
Yeah, in essence, what we need is we need continued strong growth. That is that's going to, in essence, sort of bail us out because we talked about looking at things as ratios. We look at the deficit as a percentage of GDP. Where's debt to GDP, and so we must have GDP continuing to grow. So tax cuts certainly help stimulate that. Doge, if that actually brings down some efficiencies and cuts costs, that's great. I have a lot more confidence in our ability to generate growth than I do in our ability to cut spending.
Thank you both. Been a great discussion as always. Appreciate your time and looking forward to circling back on a few other topics here soon.
Thank you very much.
Wait to see how things unfold.